Hi, I'm Larry. Welcome back to my studio. Today we're going to continue on this watercolor project that I call Guardian of the Path. We've basically got it all underpainted, but if you'd like to go back through the videos, you can go to my blog spot and you'll find a link to this picture and a drawing if you need it. So if you want to follow along, you're welcome to that. But today, what I want to do is I want to get to the point where I can take this masking fluid off. I think I can take this off right now. I've had a few days where it's been pretty hot and I haven't been able to get back here and work on this. So I need to get this masking fluid off before it gets soaked into the paper. This is called a rubber cement pickup. Most office supply stores will have these back where they have the rubber cement, and you can sometimes find them in an art store. You can also use an eraser. This is just one of the white erasers. You know, it will work too. You can use your finger, but that, if you have a lot to do, it can get pretty raw. The other thing you can do is you can take a piece of tape and then turn it so that the sticky side is out, and then just come in and roll it down. If you get it started, you can sometimes just peel it back. This is starting to feel like I'm almost to the point where it may not want to come off. So I'm just going to use the rubber cement pickup to show you what I'm talking about. And then off camera I'm going to finish doing taking this off. But I just wanted to show you what I will be doing. Now, like I said, this is basically all underpainted. So now we start getting into detail. Up to this point, I've been using my 3/4 inch. This is my 3/4 inch angle brush, and I use that to get all of this based in. But now I'm going to start switching to some of my smaller brushes. This is a 1/2 inch angle brush. This is a 1/4 inch angle brush, and I'll probably use my liner brush occasionally. As you get more into the detail part of it, you can move down into smaller brushes because that'll be more comfortable for you. But when you're trying to get everything just the base in and get your colors down and get the underpainting all done, using a larger brush, larger brush that you feel comfortable with, keeps you from getting too focused in on detail. So now I'm up to the detail part, and I'm going to come in and start working. I'm going to work my way. I'm not going to work on the water because I need to get all of this off, but I'll do that next time. But here I'm going to start working along here in this background, get the background in around my fence so I can take that off. Grab myself a paper towel. Now these are Viva paper towels. I like the Viva if I know I'm going to be lifting or something because they just don't have a pattern on them. Some of the other paper towels have patterns on them, and if you lift, you can leave that pattern in your paint. So just be aware of that. Now I'm going to take some sap green and a little bit of yellow. Let me bring this up here. So I'm just going to mix kind of a bright yellow green. And in the back here, I'm just going to kind of come over this because there's some There's some of this bright yellow green. Now remember, I've got my reference material right up where I can see it. So when I'm doing this, I am looking at my reference material. So I'm going to come in, throw some of this around, soften the bottom edge. Add a little bit down in here. Just some places down in here. Just getting it scattered around. This becomes like a brighter highlight. Rinse my brush, dry it off a little bit, just use a damp brush, and just come along those edges and soften them. That's all I'm doing is I'm taking a damp brush, I rinse it off, then I take a damp brush and just come back in here and just touch the edges so they're not real hard. A hard edge is where there's a distinct line between, like right in here I've got a hard edge, and I'm going to leave that. It's a little bit closer, and I want to distinguish between the distant water and that, but a hard line kind of brings things forward, and it also will draw attention to your attention to it. So be careful with those hard lines. Next, I'm going to take this up. I'm going to take my Hooker's green and my ultramarine blue. Make kind of a dark blue green. This is going to be my shadow color. And now if you need to, you can come in and draw in where you want to put your shadows, but I'm just going to come in and just kind of suggest this. Some of this is still a little wet, so it will move, and what doesn't move, I will move it. Rinse my brush, come in with just a damp brush and kind of tickle the edge of that and kind of pull it up. That softens the edge, kind of gives a variation in color. Occasionally rinse it off because it will be picking up color. Now we start putting in where we have highlight and shadow. I'm going to pick up just a little bit more of that dark and touch it into that white, wet area, not white area. Same here. Touch that. Leave some of the lighter areas that were part of the background, the underpainting, and some of that color that we just put in. If it's still a little damp, let it blend together. That's fine. I'm being a little erratic with this. This is negative painting. I'm painting this dark green, but I'm going to leave that area right in there because that's going to be another clump of bushes. All of this that I'm leaving that's lighter is going to be another clump of bushes. Touch. This is just a damp brush. Pick up some more of that dark, come down here. Now I'm just going to paint around my fence posts. Leave some of that light. I can touch it in places, kind of create some more thick and thin light spots. cap in there, kind of make it look like there's something light sticking up there. There's all kinds of bushes and weeds and stuff down there. I want to get dark around here. This is a rock. And then there's some bushes here. I'm constantly looking back and forth to that reference material that I have right in front of me. Touch this. Come over here. There's some weeds that kind of go down almost to the water line. Rinse my brush, soften. Now I'm going to take a little break here in a second, and I'm going to finish doing this because you don't need to watch me do everything. And I'm just going to continue to do this so that I can get all of this next layer in. So I will take a quick break right now, and I will let some of that dry, and I'll be right back. All right, everything has dried. I've filled in a little bit more. There's a change of color in the weeds here, so I wanted to go over that with you. Apparently, I did what I've told you not to do, which was leave this in a warm place. So there are places where I didn't quite get off all of the masking fluid because it melted into my paper. But that is what it is. We'll work on the water later. I just wanted to let you know that. So if you see something that doesn't quite look right, that fault's on me. And I don't mind making mistakes when it comes to my students, because they need to know that teachers can make mistakes as well. So now what I want to do, let me get my thing here, is back in here there's some kind of grayish colors of weeds. You know, they're all dried out. They've probably been dead for years, but they just stay there. And that's going to be, I'll bring this over here. Now I tend to work on a dirty palette if you hadn't figured that out. And take some ultramarine blue and a little bit of burnt sienna. And just make kind of a cool gray. That's my basic gray. I've said that before. That's my basic gray. And then I'm just going to come in here and just kind of, just kind of suggest plants, leaving some of that lighter underpainting that you see there. That becomes highlights, that becomes other types of bushes. You know, don't cover up all of your underpainting. That's there for a purpose. That creates some depth, that creates texture. Come up here, just kind of scumble. Scumbling is just when your brush just kind of goes all over the place. You know, there's some lighter versions of that color in there. It becomes shadows, darker versions. There's some right here. I want to get some dark. There's a couple of boards right here that have sunlight on them. So to make it look like they have sunlight on them, I have to get some dark around them. And there's just some of this dry weeds here. If you have to remix, which I'm doing right now, same colors, ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. And if it's not exactly the same, that's okay. You know, it just needs to be close. It doesn't need to be perfect because those weeds are different. You know, they fade at different rates and different. You know, different times. Some are older, some are newer. I'm going to come up here, put some of these weeds behind here. Throw some of that color in here. Now it looks kind of messy, but these are weeds. They aren't real neat. Nobody goes out and grooms them or anything. Come back in here. There's some of them over in here. Oops. Now that's a little bit dark. So if it's a little bit dark, well, it's wet, I just lift it off. I just want to throw some of that in there. There's also some of this red color. There's some red color, and there's also some dirt in there. I think I'll put the dirt in first. Yeah. And that dirt's going to be, this is my burnt sienna and a little orange. Just to make kind of a warmer red dirt color. Oops, there it is. Sorry about my back. Okay, so now I'm just going to come in and just put some of that color in. I don't need it to be real dark, so I'm going to put it down, then I rinse my brush, dry it off a little bit, and then with just a damp brush I come in and I spread that color around. Now I've said it before, I may not have said it this time. I'm teaching how I paint. You know, if another teacher has a different way of doing it, it's not that I'm wrong or that teacher is wrong. It's just that this is how we've learned to paint. And we evolve over time as well. Okay, there's some dirt that comes down here. Now, when you're putting it in, follow the direction. So if it's coming down a hill, you want to follow that slope. But you know, if you're following any other artists on there, on either YouTube or you go to classes and you think, well, you know, Larry does it this way, but you're doing it that way. Who's right? Well, we both are. That's the beauty of art, is that you get to do whatever you want to do. Take what you learn from me and take what you learn from any other teacher or instructor or workshop that you go to and make it your own. I'm going to take that same color here, that burnt sienna with a little orange in it. And I've got a couple of rocks, and I'm just going to come in and just kind of leave the top, but I'm going to come in and just add some color to the base. This one actually is mostly in shadow, but I'll do that shadow later. Remember, do things in layers. You know, you start with your lightest colors and then you work to your darker colors. All right, now to that color I'm going to add alizarin crimson. So here's that burnt sienna and orange, and to that I'm adding some alizarin crimson, because there's some little weird flowery things that are growing around. So I'm just going to touch that color in, paint around my fence posts here. There's a lot of these things over here. But don't cover up everything. See, I've got some light spots. I'll leave some of the last color that I put in there. And just kind of think about it as leaves and stuff. Coming close where you don't have masking, you have to be a little bit more careful. Just kind of scumbling that color up into that green that I had. It just has to look like stuff, like weeds, like different types of vines or bushes. Okay, throw some of that down in here while I've got it on my brush. Maybe add just a little bit more red to it. The alizarin crimson, and I'm kind of making little quick U shapes to kind of suggest some leaves, because there are some of those in here. And I've got some of that color already in here, but it's lighter from the time before, and that just becomes highlights. Now I think on the last part of this we'll get to the fence in this foreground and to finish it up. I'm just about to the point where I need to take a break, and then I'll come back and we'll get that middle ground and the water, I hope, finished. And then we'll be on to our final part. So I'll be right back. I'll let this dry and see you in a minute. All right, I'm back. Everything is nice and dry. I've kind of focused up here on the water because I want to get that done, and maybe work on some of this so that in our final part we can finish this up. So what I want to do right now remember I put some masking fluid on this area, and it does have some sharp lines. This is just a dry, well, it's not a dry brush, but I've wet it, and then I've just kind of taken the excess water off, and I'm just going to come and just kind of tease right around the bottom of this, you know, where I see kind of sharp edges, and I will come in and do something else to this, but I'll show you some of this, and some of the rest of it I will, you know, do the bulk of this off camera. But I just want to show you what you can do. You can come up and just tease right around the edge with a damp brush, and just soften edges. Like I said, hard edges will attract your eye, and the soft edges kind of pushes things back. So that's one thing to do. Now the other thing, and I'll bring my palette here, see if I can get it so you can see it. I've pre-wet my paints so they're ready to go. This is just some ultramarine blue and a little bit of sap green, or you can use yellow. Either one, sap green, ultramarine blue, or ultramarine blue and yellow. Just I want to kind of get a kind of a blue-green color. And water. You don't want this real dark, because this is in the shallows, it's also distant. So right in here, get a little there. I'm just going to start and I'm going parallel. You want to keep the water flat looking. And I'm just going to come in and just suggest. I think I'll take just some straight ultramarine blue at times too. Ultramarine blue and water. And just come up and break up that top line so it looks like the surf is, or that foam is just kind of going off into the surrounding water. Just picked up some of that green. It's very similar to the color that I'm working on right now. It'll be just a little bit darker when it goes over something, because transparency in watercolor, it acts like layers. I can bring some of that back out here too, just to create more like waves or ripples or something in the water, but keep them parallel to the top and bottom of your paper so that they look, so it makes the water look flat. I was in a local show and I had put something in, and I was going around looking at other people's work, and I saw some visitors looking at this one photograph or one painting that someone had done of the ocean, and they had it tilted, and the people that were looking at it were kind of leaning, just instinctively trying to straighten out the horizon. So just remember that. You know, everybody, you know, unless it's like falling over a cliff or something like that, water's going to be pretty flat. And you have to work to make sure that that happens. Now right along the bottom here, again, I'm going to take my ultramarine blue and maybe a little bit of burnt sienna. I just want to slightly gray it. And right along here, right along the bottom, just kind of put some down. Rinse your brush. And then soften the edge. This becomes the wet sand. You can soften those edges too so it looks like it's mixing in there. But this becomes the wet sand, the part where the water has come up. You can even bring it up into the rocks a little bit. Now you can get really detailed. I'm just doing this pretty simply, more suggestive than detailed. But detail is something a lot of people don't want to do. Make sure I'm staying in camera there. And others, you know, just love detail. And I have my moods. Sometimes I want to do detail, sometimes I don't. A lot of times when I'm teaching classes, I don't get as detailed with something as I would if I'm doing it for myself. I only have a limited amount of time, so I don't want to waste it all. Now remember, I have this is my reference material, and I have it right in front of me so that I can look up and see what's going on. Now I can take that same blue with a little touch of burnt sienna in it and just come in here and just suggest rocks. I won't do all of them. Make some of them bigger, make some of them flat. Now I'd hoped that I had a little more cooperation from my salt, but it didn't work. I think the paint itself needed to be a little bit darker. I just remixed, put a little bit of darkness around there. remember, if it gets too dark, take your paper towel and just lift it. Rinse my brush, and I'm just going to soften that. This is all in the distance, so it's just very little detail. Come up here, put a few like shadows right underneath that. Make it just a little bit stronger. Everything has shadows, so I just want to get a little bit of shadow underneath and in, just to suggest things. Make sure that I'm still. Now you can also take a toothbrush. Let's see if I can find my toothbrush. Okay, this is just an old toothbrush, and I'm just going to take the ultramarine blue and kind of just roll it in there like that. Then I'm going to hold it down, and oops, now it splattered. Just pick it up with your brush. This is why I'm kind of not doing this, but you can also splatter this. And that'll also give you some texture. Like I said, just come back in and pick it up. If it's someplace where you don't want it, just pick it up. Or you can take a damp brush and kind of smooth them out. You know, in the fence it's not going to matter. You know, there's probably rocks and stuff up in the dirt there. But I'll finish the water off camera. I'm just going to do exactly what you saw me doing. Oh, I know what I do need to do though. I'm going to add just a tiny touch of alizarin crimson to the ultramarine blue I had, and just come in and just kind of touch this right around parts of that gives it kind of a purpley color and gives a little more texture and dimension to the waves. But I remembered to do that before I got off camera and had to explain it to you. So I will be right back, and then we will hopefully get this. Well, actually, I'm gonna end this part, and then the last part we will finish up this fence going down to the ocean here. So this has been Guardian of the Path. If you want to follow along, please go to my blog spot and follow the links to get the picture and the drawing if you need it. And until then, I will see you again. Remember to check on your friends, your family, and please stay safe, and most of all, keep painting. I will see you again in class.